Good afternoon, sports fans from all around the globe. I am your host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and this is your National League 2022 preview and breakdown with myself and Scott. If you were all here watching just an hour ago, myself and Scott broke down the American League. And my goal was to now pre record the National League and ship it out tomorrow at the same time. But as most of you know, I am as dumb as a bag of bricks when it comes to this technology. So we're going live again. So back-to-back hours with myself and Scott as we break down the National League this time. In the American League, Scott came up with the Jays in the East, the White Sox in the Central, Houston in the West, and then in the playoffs and wild card, the Rays, the Yanks, and the Angels. I think I'm correct. Yes, with the White Sox coming out in the American League for the World Series. So I remembered that one. So hats off to me. But without further ado, let's bring him back. The man from the Palm Tree State himself, the one, the only, Mr. Scott E. Webb. What's up, Scotty?
Here we go again, man. Look at this. This is baseball time, brother. Let's go.
Hey, what do they say in baseball? Nothing better than let's play two, right?
Damn straight, brother. This is and you know what? We ain't gonna start. We're not doing this 7-inning bullshit in the end. We're doing 2 9-inning games here. No 9 innings and then 7 innings crap.
Well, we still have ghost runners, but that's for another story.
Well, we're not in extra innings yet.
Last year, season starts. The Giants, fast and furious, and I was on a West Coast show every Monday from someone that was a diehard Dodger fan, and it's just not if, but when the Dodgers are going to catch the Giants, which they never did until the playoffs, of course. But if you waited in, I think it was early May, you might have caught some great prices on the Braves that were just sitting in the weeds. They lost Acuna. They had no chance. They had no outfield, but their GM pulled the miracle out of his you-know-what, actually, and created an outfield, and in comes this pitching that just got stronger as the season progressed. Come to the playoffs, they weren't going to be denied in your World Series champs, and then they go off and we get locked out, and they didn't sign Freddie before this lockout, and now he's a Dodger. So before we dive into these divisions, just give everyone your thoughts from last year coming to this year, and just preface everyone on what's going on in the National League.
Well, obviously, this is the league that has the World Series champs. So if you want to be the champs, you got to beat the champs. So you're going to hear that theme from me. And that means the East. So, if you want to beat them, you got to beat them. So it's interesting how the Giants played, and I get hats off, man. Hats off because Shohan Faridi is well, I don't know what to tell you. He's a Rays guy, and he went out and he went to the Dodgers first, and ended up being in the Giants, and somehow got a pitching staff to work, somehow got older veteran players to work, somehow got a manager that nobody likes to work. I look, they ran that guy out of Philadelphia. So when you're talking about what's going on with this team in the Giants. Standing ovation, because no way in hell that team was that good. Now, that said, they played that good, and what nobody gives them credit for is their goddamn offense was something else. There's when we get into it, I'll talk about it a little bit, but the offense in the National League is not as good as in the American League by any stretch. So if you have a competitive edge and you can hit, you're a team that's got a big advantage in the National League. Now, then the big Dodgers are the team that's going to be everybody's thing, and they have to play in the playoff game to get in. And, of course, they do make it to the finals of the division, and they couldn't get past the Braves. And then the Braves got to go beat the Astros, right? And you talk about these teams that get there where they got to play these playoff games and stuff, and they just don't have the experience, and they don't have this or that, and so they don't win. Well, they did. So it's interesting how all of this stuff meshes and how the stuff works, and what the secret weapon for the Braves is their bullpen. That's their secret weapon, and I don't think they get enough credit for that. And I don't know. The National League, I think, is a more fun league than the American League, and not in the sense that I don't like the American League, but a more fun in the sense that you got a little more competition, I think, amongst the teams, even in the bad divisions. So I think it's a little more fun to see how things shake out, to be honest.
Well, again, you talk about those Braves. They lose Freddie Freeman. I think they lose Soler. They'll have Acuna out maybe for the first month. Who knows? Due to some injuries on a dirt bike. He says maybe in December. He was already having shoulder issues, now wrist injuries. But looking at the odds to win the pennant in the National League from Vegas Insider, the Dodgers plus 250. The Mets plus 475, which we know is going to change because of DeGrom, and Max has already got a little hammy issue. Your Braves at plus 600. The Brewers and Padres at plus 700. The Cardinals at plus 1,000. Last year's darlings in the West, the Giants plus 1,200. The Phillies plus 1,600. The Marlins plus 3,000. And then it goes Reds 5,000, Cubs 6,600, Nationals 8,000 with the Rockies at 8,000, and your Diamondbacks and Pirates at plus 12,500. Now, I know there's some public trendy dogs right in the middle of there, in the meat of there. I do like the Marlins at plus 3,000, but again, that would just be throwing money away. I think they're at least another year away, as our friend Craig Mish would say. The Phillies at plus 1,600 is intriguing to me. I personally don't think I thought the Brewers had a dream run last year with their front end starters, never mind their back end. I like the Cardinals offensively, but as you will say, they have no pitching right now. It's all banged up. And then going to the East, obviously, at this point, it is the Braves to catch with the Mets struggling. So let's just dig right into the East. Again, DeGrom out for a month to start. We know it's going to be longer than that. The Braves, a couple holes to fill, but they'll be fine, obviously. And the Phillies at plus 1,600 is intriguing to me, but the stage is yours to break down the NL East.
So again, we start with the Braves only because you got to beat the best. You got to beat them. So last year the Braves win based on productivity models, the Pythagorean theory, base runs theory. They should have won 92 games. Nobody else is even close to that number. The closest one is the Phillies, and the Phillies should have won 80 games. The Mets should have won 79 games. And then you got the Marlins at 73 and Washington at 72 and a half. So think about that for a second. You got 80, 79, 73, 72. Those are all under 500 teams, all of them, other than the Atlanta Braves. So that's how far these teams have to go to catch them. And they need to make huge strides to catch the Braves. So number one, I'm going to have the Braves up there pretty high. So trying to catch them is not going to be the easiest thing in the world. So what did the Braves do? Well, the Braves got rid of Freddie Freeman. Okay, well, how good is Freddie Freeman? Well, Freddie Freeman's an all-star player. He's an MVP kind of caliber type player. Okay, so they get rid of him. Soler's gone. Well, what did Soler do? Well, Soler hit some key home runs for them, did some things in a positive theory for them. So he was a good player down the stretch. So now they got two players that they got to figure out what they're going to do with. Well, the number one thing they did was they bring in probably one of the best first basemen in all of baseball. Now people will kind of know who he is because he's not in Oakland anymore. They're going to bring in Matt Olson. Matt Olson gets a big contract, and he's a hell of a player. I'm not going to tell people because it's be wrong the thing to say that they're going to forget who Freddie Freeman was. That's the wrong thing to say, and that's disrespectful to Freddie Freeman. Freddie Freeman's a hell of a hitter, hell of a player. But wait till you see this kid. This kid's going to stack up, and he's going to be theoretically he's a top 10 player in all of baseball. I know people are not going to believe me when I said that, but he is. And watch him perform in Atlanta, especially when I don't know if people really realize he's from there. So it's kind of like his hometown area that he's going home to. He's going to bat third in that lineup, and he is something else. And then they went and signed Eddie Rosario back. And if you don't remember who Eddie Rosario is, he's the guy that was the stir that drove the whole offense after Acuna was gone, and they had to figure out what are they going to do. So they bring in Eddie Rosario from the Twins, and that guy's just gonna lead off for them and be great. And nobody's talking about how good Ozzie Albies is. Now I know that they say, "Oh, he's a great player." Well, do you know how good he really is? He had 100 runs and 100 RBIs and hit 30 home runs out of second base. That's how good he is. He is phenomenal player. And then you got Austin Riley at third base, who has a breakout season. He hits over 30 home runs. And now they had two big injuries last year they had to overcome, right? Remember, Marcell Ozuna was down, and then Acuna fell out. So both of those two guys go down. And now guess what? You get Marcell Ozuna back for the whole season. He's got a chip on his shoulder. I expect him to play pretty well. That's another 30 home run type guy. Not a big average guy, but a pretty good home run guy. With the one season he played for the Marlins, he was like an MVP kind of guy. So he can play just like the rest of them. And then you have Adam Duvall, who all he does is strike out or hit home runs. So and we haven't even talked about Dansby Swanson yet. This team's loaded, and they're stacked. They're loaded. They got veteran guys that can come off the bench and fill in. And then when you start talking about their pitching staff, I'm sold on their pitching staff. I just don't think they have a true ace. Max Fried is a great pitcher. I don't know if I would call him an ace dominant pitcher. He's a number one. And Charlie Morton going in the second spot, he's a good number two. So and he could be a number one on a lot of teams. And then you got to try to figure it out. I will tell you that Ian Anderson's going to be a lot better this year than what people think. And I think that they found out how this a kid can pitch. So Tyler Davidson's another one that's going to come. And then they get Mike Soroka back. And Jeff, we've talked about all of this, and the best part of this team is the bullpen. And we haven't even said nothing. Kenley Jansen, Will Smith, Colin McHugh, Tyler McClintock, not McClintock, what's his name? Matzik, AJ Minter, Darren O'Day. I mean, man, then they get Acuna back and at the end of April, beginning of May. I don't know. You tell me. I'm going to tell you this. The Mets did a lot. The Mets, everybody's going to tell you the Mets went out and they won the offseason. But my rule of thumb is you go win the offseason, then you're not going to win the real season. So they're already in my back pocket to start. And then DeGrom hurt. That's a problem. And now Scherzer has a tweak in his hamstring. That doesn't mean he's not going to pitch. So don't think it that way. It means that he might not start opening day. Okay, well, so what? That means that he starts a couple days later. Well, here's the problem. If you in this competitive division, because you got the Phillies, in this competitive division, if you get behind 10 games in the first, 30, 40 games out there, you're done. Because how are you going to catch them? How are you going to make up 10 games that far that you've fallen? Because the Braves are good. The Phillies are good. These teams are good. So I think that's a problem. I think the Mets are in a spot where, sure, they went out, they did a lot of stuff. They brought in a ton of people. They got Robbie Cano back. I don't think a lot of people talk about, getting Robbie Cano back. And if he's, I think he's an average player at best at this point. Brandon Nemo's a good leadoff guy. Starling Marte, they bring him over. I think they expect him to be an all-star outfielder. I think last year was the best year he's had in a long time, and I think he's going to regress. So he's a regress player. But Francisco Lindor is not a regress player. He's a MVP kind of guy, and I think he's going to play pretty well for them this year. So I think they're going to get a little offense from him. I think Alonso's what we figured out he's going to be. He's going to be about a 250 hitter, and he's going to hit 40 home runs. Okay, well, that's great. Then that's what they got. They don't got nothing else. You got Cano, Eduardo Escobar, Jeff McNeil. You got Mark Canhall and James McCann. Does that really match up to what the Braves can do? It does not. It does not match up to what the Braves can do. Not what I think. And then when you start to talk about their pitching staff, that was what was going to put them in there. You have the two best pitchers in baseball, pretty much. I mean, you got DeGrom, who arguably, I shouldn't say arguably, he's the best pitcher in baseball. So and then you put Max Scherzer right behind him. Oh my God! And then you bring over Chris Bassett. He's going to pitch third, the number one starter for the Oakland A's last year. Okay, then you got the Carlos Carrascos and you got your T1 Walkers. Well, they're going fourth and fifth. That's not a bad lineup. Take the top two out, you got a problem. You got Chris Bassett now going number one. You got to have to figure out where Max Scherzer kind of fits in when his leg's ready to go. And then you got Carlos Carrasco, who in my opinion he's washed now. He's older and he's pretty much done. And then T1 Walker's coming off an injury. So that leaves you with guys like Tyler McGill, who's going to pitch. David Peterson, the guy they keep bouncing around from minor leagues to up here. I think they got a pretty decent bullpen, but I don't think they've got enough to match what the Braves got. And to be honest, without having what's his name, without having DeGrom, I'm going to tell you that I don't think they're as good as the Phillies. The Phillies went out. The Phillies got some offense now. I just don't like the way the batting order goes. But that being said, that doesn't mean they're not going to hit. So if it looks like this, which I'm looking at I'm looking at roster resource right this second. So their lineup shows Schwarber, Realmuto, Harper, Castellanos, and Hoskins. I don't like Realmuto batting second. I would rather have a different guy hitting there. I talked about it before. If Gene Segura could be Gene Segura of old and bat there, that would be great. Or even if Didi Gregorius could be Didi Gregorius of old and bat there, that'd be great. But I can see this team, Schwarber come up with a leadoff home run. Realmuto makes an out, and then Harper hits a home run or something, or he makes an out. Castellanos hits a home run or something. They got a lot of solo home runs here, and so they need to lengthen the lineup, because when you get past Rhys Hoskins, you're talking about Segura, Gregorius, Byron Stott, who's a rookie that's made the team. He's going to play, and Matt Vierling, and Matt Vierling is playing the center field position because they don't have anybody there. Odubel Herrera, who they brought in to play that spot, got hurt, so he's out for a little while. So they got another rookie playing there. They got a bunch of guys that are good. I don't think they're as long as the Braves lineup. They got guys that can hit like the Braves, but when you start talking about Acuna in there and Albies in there, those guys are MVP guys. And the only MVP guy that they have is Harper. They have good hitters. Don't get me wrong. Castellanos is a good hitter. And Schwarber can be a good hitter. He's streaky. So then you look at the arms, and they're going to start. Their best pitcher is Zach Wheeler. He's not going to go first, but he's their best pitcher. He's coming. He had a little bit of arm trouble. He's starting him late, so he's probably going to pitch out of the 5-hole. So he's going to be a big favorite in that game. Aaron Nola is going to be number one, I'm mixed on Aaron Nola. I think Aaron Nola is an ace pitcher, can be an ace pitcher. He's a top pitcher in the National League, which makes him an ace. But he gets bumped too much for me. There's times he'll go out there and he gets hit. So I think he's really good, though. So don't take that the wrong way. I think he's good. Whereas Zach Wheeler goes out there and just beats the crap out of teams. And then you got Kyle Gibson, who goes third, which is not bad, and Zach Eflin and Ranger Suarez. So there's nothing wrong with that team. I don't like their bullpen as well. I mean, they brought in Corey Knebel. He's not necessarily a big time closer. He's been the eighth role guy, seventh role guy. And then you got the Marlins, man. I just wish the Marlins had more offense, because if they had more offense, they're the team to beat or can compete, because they got pitchers. Them signing Jorge Soler is great. And they signed what's the other guy's name from the White Sox? They got Abisail Garcia. That's who it is. So they got a couple of guys that can hit, and this Chaz Chisholm kid's going to be good, and they got players coming. So I like what the Marlins are doing. I think they're competitive. I think they're real close to being where they need to be. But to beat the Braves, I think it's asking too much.
The Marlins we talked about this, Alcantara, an elite arm in the National League and in the game right now, young. They add Luzardo, who's throwing 97, 98 spring training. They got Rogers, correct?
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, they got
They got Trevor Rogers, Pablo Lopez, and Pablo Lopez is a lot better than if you don't know who he is, that kid's a good pitcher. The one that's going to get bumped out of the rotation, who's actually good too, is Elysian Hernandez.
I mean, again, for the prices, I mean, this is just to win the pennant. The Phillies at 16-1 and Marlins at 30-1. I mean, that's pizza and beer all day for me. And then you just see how that shakes out. We go to the Central, and we're talking about starting pitching, and then you're wheeling out Corbin Burns, you're wheeling out Woodruff, you're wheeling out Willie Peralta, you got Josh Hader in the back, and with Williams. It was a dream scenario. I keep saying this because it was too perfect. And when you got a lead after 6, 9 out of 10, they would close the deal, but in that back end. And that was with no offense. That was with Yelich with a hurt back. Their second baseman, Herrera, however you say it, was supposed to be the next coming. He was awful. Jackie Bradley Jr., who couldn't hit my weight, who's now in Boston. They add Hunter Renfroe. Everyone in Vegas, go bet them to win the division, minus 130. Go bet. They're printing money. I was like, okay, I know. They're printing. I didn't go and get any of that printed money, by the way. I like the Cardinals. I love their offense. I think they're going to be fun to watch. The problem is their front end staff is already hurt. Reyes is hurt. Flaherty is hurt. There's another young kid there that never came to tuition. The fact is they don't have any pitching right now. They used to be a machine, a factory for pitching, and I don't know where that's gone. So looking at these odds, again, these are just pennant odds. Brewers at 700, Cardinals at 1,000. Then you got to go to the Reds and the Cubs, 5,000 and 6,600. I would assume you're in on the Brewers in a cloud of dust.
Well, let's do it this way. Pittsburgh's out. They're out. But I got a couple of nice things to say about Pittsburgh. Cincinnati is not dead like everybody thinks they are. They think they're the Oakland A's. So they just got rid of everybody, but there's a reason what they did. So we'll get into that maybe a little bit. The Chicago Cubs are trying to build up to what and I think people are thinking that they're going to be better than what they're really going to be. And then you got Milwaukee and St. Louis. So I think it's this Milwaukee and St. Louis. I don't think anybody else is going to be that close. I think this is a lot closer between Milwaukee and St. Louis than maybe what is being projected out there. I think people think that Milwaukee's going to win this division by 10 games. I don't think that's the case. I think Milwaukee's going to. I think Milwaukee, if things go right, could win this by a lot. But that's a big if, and the big if is his name is Christian Yelich. That's the big deal out there. because St. Louis's deal is they can hit. This is going to be one of the best offenses you're going to see in the National League. I think the Braves are there. I think you're going to see St. Louis be there. I think you'll see the Dodgers be there. And believe it or not, I think you're going to see the Padres be there. But that being said, St. Louis has guys that can hit. They don't got anybody that can throw. They don't got anybody that can pitch. Let me put it this way: they don't have enough guys that can pitch. They're going to win. They're going to win games, but it's going to be tough for them. And then, but again, you play Pittsburgh all the time, and it kind of is what it is. Yeah, the Milwaukee Brewers were plus 18 in the division last year, so 18 games over 500. That's pretty good. Now I get it that they're in that division and they got some weak ass teams in there, but you don't forget about what the Reds were last year. The Reds should have won 83 games last year. That's pretty good. I mean, that's over 500, and that's not a bad thing. And Cincinnati was plus 10 in the division, so that's pretty good. That's better than the Cardinals. The Cardinals were plus 8 in the division. So I like the idea here that Milwaukee is 10 games in the division better than St. Louis, and they should have won 93 games last year. So that means St. Louis has some work to do to catch them. I just don't think that they've done anything to get there, to be honest. When you look at the Milwaukee Brewers, it all starts with Corbin Burns. It doesn't start with Woodruff. Now, last year it would have started with Brandon Woodruff because he was the number 1 and Corbin Burns was number 2. So what ended up happening? Burns goes out and he has a dominant Cy Young year. Woodruff has his normal, solid, great year. And then Freddie Peralta finally finds his way to get there. And, I mentioned this, we talked about this the other day. All 3 of those guys, Burns, Woodruff, and Peralta, what they have in common is they were all relief pitchers for the Milwaukee Brewers before they became starting pitchers. And they were relief pitchers for 2 or 3 years before they became starting pitchers. And they developed those guys and they worked them up and they've done a great job. And now Freddie's turn. And Freddie's going to be one of those guys, just like those 2 other ones. So I think Corbin Burns is as good as it gets in the National League. I mean, I know that DeGrom is out there and he's the best pitcher in baseball. But if you put Burns and DeGrom on the hill against each other, they might have to. Whose ever arm fell off first, that's who's gonna lose the game, because those guys can pitch. And then you got Woodruff, who's an ace pitcher for most teams. And I can tell you, Freddie Peralta is a number 1 or number 2 on teams that kind of struggle to have one. And then you got Adrian Hauser and Eric Lauer down there. And then holy shit, Jeff, the bullpen is just unbelievable. It's still unbelievable. And they got a kid, Aaron Ashby, that nobody talks about, or that they will be this year. But Aaron Ashby is a young kid. He's 23 years old. He'll be 24, throws the ball real hard. He's going to be that next relief pitcher that develops to be a starter. That's going to be one of them other guys that's really good. So last year, who they missed a lot? They didn't get a lot out of Devin Williams last year. Well, he's going to pitch for them this year. So now you got Hader and Williams, and they're going to. It's just a phenomenal bullpen. So I don't think they're going to have any issues with them that way. This team, they picked up Andrew McCutchen. I think that's a very good veteran guy. Not that he's going to be the biggest offensive weapon they've ever seen in the world. And then they go get Hunter Renfroe. Those are 2 offensive guys that can help this team. But there's nobody that's going to help this team more than Christian Yelich becoming an all-star player again. And if you remember, he was MVP kind of Christian Yelich, where he hit 40 home runs, drove in 100 runs, scored 100 RBIs, all that stuff. If he's remotely close to that, then they can win the division by 10, 12, 14 games. Because they got the offense that they need. They got some good kick out of the guy they got from the shortstop, Willie Adames from the Rays. He played pretty well. They got some good things from him. So, but they got a lot of outs in that lineup. So they're going to score runs. It's just a matter of how good their pitching is, and I think it's really good. Now flip the switch over to the Cardinals, for example, and the Cardinals are in a position where, listen to this lineup. They're going to have Tommy Edman bat leadoff. Now that's not the greatest guy in the world, but he's a good leadoff hitter. I mean, he's a good contact guy, doesn't strike out a whole lot, gets on base. And then you got Goldschmidt, Tyler O'Neill, Nolan Arenado, Dylan Carlson. And then it kind of gets a little weaker from there with Yadier Molina. They did go sign an outfielder from the Giants last year, Corey Dickerson. And then they got Paul DeYoung and Harrison Bader. Those are all not automatic outs. They're all sort of good average guys. Major League Baseball batting average is 241, 242 or something like that, something stupid. So these guys are all going to hit better than that, except for, maybe DeJong if he doesn't get his shit together. But Goldschmidt, Tyler O'Neill, and Arenado, those are guys that can hit 30 or 40 home runs each. Those guys are projected, each one of them, to have 100 RBIs, all three of them. I would tell you that Tyler O'Neill, after his breakout season last year, is a guy who, if you're looking for a sleeper kind of MVP kind of guy or a home run kind of guy, he's the guy. Because I don't think people I think when they think of Cardinals, they think of Arenado and Goldschmidt, and they should. But the guy who will make this team win is going to be Tyler O'Neill. That's the guy. And then this year, Dylan Carlson will have a bigger role on this team than he did last year. So I like them. I think they got a great lineup. I think that lineup is obviously better than what the Cubs are going to put out there. It's better than what the Reds are going to put out there. And it's better than what the Pirates are going to put out there. It's really offensively better than what the Brewers are going to put out there. Here's the problem. Your number one starter is Adam Wainwright. He's 41 years old. So, look, he had a great year last year. He really did. He's a bulldog kind of guy. But I'm going to tell you, if he was your fourth pitcher, I think that would be great. He's not the fourth pitcher. He's going to be the number one slot. And then their next guy is Miles Mikolas. Now I get it. Miles Mikolas, good guy. He throws 91 miles an hour. He doesn't have anything special. He's not. I always look at it this way. When I'm watching a game and I'm looking at these things, and these guys keep fouling the ball off, and they keep fouling the ball off, and they keep fouling the ball off, and they keep fouling the ball off, and then they get a hit. The problem is that pitcher doesn't have an out pitch. Well, that's what Miles Mikolas is. He's a guy that needs to get contact to get outs. He can't throw a slider or something that gets the hitter off balance enough to get him out. He has to make contact to have the fielder then get the ball and throw him out. That's a difference between pitchers. He needs contact, and that's going to be a problem because that's the same problem that Adam Wainwright has. He doesn't have an out pitch anymore. Sure, he's got the big curveball. Everybody knows he's got the big curveball and all that stuff, but he doesn't throw hard enough to do anything except have you sit there and wait on the curveball. So then you got Steven Matz. They brought over retread from Toronto. Okay, he might be their best pitcher. That says a lot. If you got Steven Matz as your best pitcher, look, at one time Steven Matz was a big guy for the Mets. They thought he was going to be great. Okay, well, he wasn't great. He got bombed with the Mets, went to the Blue Jays. He got bombed in the Blue Jays. Now, he started pretty good last year, had a pretty decent year last year, so maybe he can be pretty decent this year for the Cardinals. And if he's pretty decent, that's good because they need help. Dakota Hudson's coming back from surgery. He's a guy that throws fairly hard, younger player. He's 27 years old. He's the youngest starting pitcher that they have, and he's coming off injury. And then the next guy is Drew Verhagen. You ever heard of him? Drew Verhagen is a former pitcher that pitched in the Japanese league for the last 2 or 3 years, and they're bringing him over. He's not a hard thrower. He's 92, 93 miles an hour. But they don't have anybody else because Jack Flaherty got hurt. Now, he's going to play. He's just got what they call shoulder bursitis. So that's just, give it, I don't know, maybe a month, and he's going to be back out there. But I don't think he's their number one. He's their ace pitcher. And since he's been kind of floundering here back and forth, I don't know. I in my mind, it's I don't know if he really is that. He's still a young kid. He's only 26, but he's missing out on all the prime innings that you could put on him. And I think that kid's in trouble to be that kind of guy. And then the guy that I was kind of hoping to see is Alex Reyes. And Alex Reyes, he's got a frayed labrum. I think he's out for at least half the season. So that's those are guys that they need that really need to have them pitch. So anyway, that my opinion on the Cardinals is that they're a good team. They got offense. They can't pitch.
TJ, Mets win the World Series. Well, if the Mets win the World Series, if I was you, I'd just wait a couple weeks, see them flounder early, and you get a better price. I think I'm staring right now at plus 475 to win the East, to win the NL. That's not the World Series. So hopefully, in your case, maybe Max misses a start or two. DeGrom's out for a month, and you can do like a few years ago with the Nationals, who are below 500. And then next thing you know, they were plus 3,000, then plus 2,800, caught fire. Last year, the Braves did it, so you guys can follow in that model right there. So thank you for the shout out there with the Mets. I'm back east. I'm rooting for the same as hard as you for the Red Sox. We had our dream season last year, fall short. So good luck to you and the Mets there. Out west, we talked about this a couple weeks ago when Jeff Sherman put out their under-overs. The Dodgers, he has 12 and a half games better than the Padres, 14 and a half games better than the Giants. In the Vegas Insiders to win the National League pennant, the Dodgers the clear favorite at plus 250. And then I got to go down to the Padres plus 700, the Giants plus 1,200, and the Rockies plus 8,000, and the Diamondbacks plus 12,500. Since then, the Padres have added Manaea. You and I talked about this on the Breakfast Bankroll this morning. They got a strong staff. They were without Tatis for a couple months at least. On paper, they're good. But the Dodgers, we've had Bernie Fratto on a handful of times through the lockout, and I asked him behind closed doors what's going on with Bauer. He will pitch. They just don't know when. So I think that will be the next piece that the Dodgers add at some point. It's the Dodgers division to win. We do know that, but the stage is yours, and walk us through it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's the case. Last year it was the Dodgers and the Giants battling head to head. That was kind of fun. When you thought that the beginning of the year it was going to be Dodgers Padres all season, and then it became Dodgers Giants, and the Padres didn't even make the playoffs. So I'm going to tell you that this is what I think about the Dodgers. I think the Dodgers are like a softball team. They got an offense that is they can score any way you want them to score. They got a lineup that's interchangeable. They can bat they can put guys in different spots. They are so interchangeable. And what makes the Dodgers so good is not their everyday lineup. It's the flexibility of their everyday lineup. Because if they bring in, say they bring in Austin Barnes and they want him to play, well, he'll play just like Chris Taylor. So you bring in Edwin Rios off the bench, and he's going to play just like Justin Turner. That's what they do. So they have the depth to withstand a ton of things. And I don't think any other team has what they do when it comes to that. They have the depth. And then they have the veteran guys that have been there. Plus they got a veteran manager now, and they got a veteran pitching staff. This Dodger team is not as good pitching as they used to be in the years past. They're going to need Walker Buehler to be what everybody expects Walker Buehler to have been. He's an ace, needs to be an ace every time out. Not that he's not, but he didn't really have an ace kind of season. He needs to be that guy that goes out, throws 200 innings, wins 20 games. I mean, that's just what he's got to do. Because there's good pitchers in the National League. We talked about some of them so far, but he needs to match up, and when he matches up, he needs to be the favorite, and there's no reason why he shouldn't be a favorite over almost anybody. I would tell you that with the Dodgers played the Mets, and DeGrom's pitching for the Mets, I wouldn't be surprised to see Walker Buehler be a favorite over DeGrom because of the Dodgers team and their lineup and everything else that they have. Even though he's not as good a pitcher as DeGrom. Anyway, but Julio Urias, he needs to repeat what he did last year, see how that works for him. He won 20 games, but remember, he was their third or fourth best pitcher. So he needs to be the number 2 guy now because, Clayton Kershaw, they signed him back, which I don't blame him. But he's not their number 1 anymore. And he needs to pitch out of the 3-hole, the 4-hole, whatever it is. But those 3 guys are going to be good. Okay, so then you bring out Andrew Heaney and Tony Gonsolin. Now, Gonsolin, I'm a big fan of. I like him. Andrew Heaney, I'm not so much a fan of. But I will tell you, what they did in the bullpen is unbelievable. So I don't know. Maybe you and I can go out and pitch for them. We can get bombed, and then they can bring in the bullpen, and they still win. They bring in Kimbrel and Blake Trinan and Daniel Hudson and all these guys and Brewdog Groderal. And, I mean, they just got guys that are going to come out and throw 100 miles an hour every time. Okay. All the way through except for when they bring in David Price. So it is what it is. I mean, I don't think you can compete with that. Now, having said that, I will tell you that if you go look at where the Padres are, the Padres, I don't think, are a complete team on what they're doing. And I think it's interesting because I think where things are going with this team is they have some pitching that even the Dodgers don't have on the starting rotation. So yeah, they don't have that true ace guy. Is Darvish an ace? Well, he's a good number 1, and maybe he's an ace if he's on. Blake Snell can be that ace guy, but he only throws 5-6 innings, so I don't count an ace if you don't go 7, 8, 9 innings every once in a while. And now you have Sean Manaea on this lineup. So he's going to pitch. Now that's a big time pitcher for that they bring in. And then they get we haven't even talked about Joe Musgrove, and Joe Musgrove could be a number 1 on a lot of teams. And shit, he might pitch 4th for this team. I don't think so, but he might. It depends on right left kind of scenario. And then you got Mike Clevenger, who was going to be just fine. And then they signed that kid Nick Martinez. And again, I know people don't know who he is, but he's a guy who used to pitch for the Texas Rangers probably 3-4 years ago. Wasn't that great. Again, one of these guys that went over to the Japanese league. They figured out how to fix him. So now he's back and, he can pitch. So they got a lot of guys. And that doesn't even include guys like former prospect stud Chris Paddock. And they still got a true prospect stud in Mackenzie Gore. So what are they going to do with these kids? Well, they can use them for trade. They can do a lot of other things. Their big thing, and it would have been so much fun. Fernando Tatis is a moron for going out and getting hurt. Now I get it. He's a human. He's a play. Does whatever. Does a motorcycle accident. He's done until the middle of the year. Like he's out till June, whatever. Okay, well, that's not a whatever. He can be, possibly could be the best player in baseball. Now I say that because there's a kid in Washington who's pretty goddamn good too, and Juan Soto. There's a kid in Atlanta who's pretty good, and Acuna. You still have to be better than Mike Trout at some point in time. You got tons of great players in Major League Baseball these days, but Tatis is one of those guys that is that good. So you take him out of the lineup, that means a lot. Now, having said that, don't forget you got a good guy in Trent Grisham. He's a pretty good. He's a good hitter. My problem is I don't know where to bat him. He's not really a leadoff guy, but they kind of put him in there because they got to try to figure out what to do with him. They got to bat somebody ahead of Manny Machado. Now, Manny Machado, he's a 270, 280 hitter, which is great. He still hits 30 home runs. What's wrong with that? So I just think he's kind of streaky. Jake Cronenworth's a good player. He's not a superstar player, but he's kind of close to all-star level type player. And then they bring in Luke Voigt, and very interesting sign for me, especially now that they get the DH in this league. This guy can hit. Now, if he ends up hitting 30 home runs, then that's a big win for them. If he hits 40 home runs, holy crap, because he has the ability to do that. So the question becomes is what do they get out of Luke Voigt? Now, if they get something good out of Luke Voigt, then that's great. If they don't get anything out of Luke Voigt, well, they didn't really cost him much. And then they got Eric Hosmer, Will Myers. They got they're gonna have to play that guy. His last name is Kim. I don't even know how to pronounce his first name, but they got from the KBO. He played in the KBO. They got him last year, and he was supposed to play second base, but Cronenworth beat him out. So and now Cronenworth's got that job. So now you got all this stuff going on. The Padres are going to be good, man, and then they're going to get, Tatis back, and that's going to be helpful to them. And then they got a whole new bench. I don't know if people know, but Matt Beatty used to play for the Dodgers, now plays for the Padres, and Jorge Alfaro, who came from the Marlins, he's now with this team, and Nomar Mazara is now with this team, and so is Victor Caratini. So all of those guys are guys that are just jumping in here. So I like the team. Dinelson Lamet's going to be the closer, which is awfully interesting because that guy can throw 8 million miles an hour. They got some guys in the bullpen there that are pretty good. They got Emilio Pagan, who I like out of that bullpen. So I like that team. I think they're the surprise team in the National League. I think they get close to 90, if not over 90 wins, because I think the Giants take a step back, and I think you got Arizona and Colorado who are just terrible. So I think they have an opportunity to beat up on those teams. So I like the idea that San Diego fills the spots that the Giants void from last year.
So from my take, this is just my take, I would assume, and you know what happens when we assume, I will go with your take. Braves in the East, Brewers in the Central, Dodgers in the West, Padres make the playoffs. I'm going to say see, this is hard with DeGrom, so I'll let you finish it from there.
So the way I have it set up before this DeGrom injury, and then we'll talk about the DeGrom thing. So I got Atlanta winning, Milwaukee winning, the Dodgers winning. And then I got the Mets, the Padres, and the Phillies making it, with St. Louis the one being not going to make it. And that could be a toss-up between Philadelphia and St. Louis. I just like the Phillies pitching way better than I do what St. Louis can do on the mound. And if we went over it, the lineups are pretty similar. So in terms of the batting structure. So I like that idea. Now, if the Mets get off to a bad start and the Mets have a trouble with DeGrom and they have trouble with Scherzer, I would drop the Mets totally out of the playoffs, not even making the playoffs. All that money they spent, all that stuff they did, not even going to make the playoffs because the St. Louis Cardinals will step in there.
And again, it is a wild card. So anyone that got futures early this year and then bought into the Mets, I think I saw 88.5, 89.5. I thought I saw it steam to 92 on the wins there. It is tough. I would tell all Met backers to hold off. Let's see what happens in the first month to 6 weeks. Let's hear what the news is with DeGrom. I'm not saying they're out of it by any means, but in the same token, Max has got 1 million miles on him in my eyes. And this guy just keeps on trucking. Now, all of a sudden, we get a little hammy tweak. It seems like whoever comes over to the Mets, this is what happens. It just doesn't matter. They're just cursed. And we'll see there.
So I got a question for you. So in that division in the East, think about it this way. You have the Mets, you have the Marlins, who are going to win over 80 games. They're going to be in that 500 number. So you got the Mets, you got the Marlins, you got the Braves, and you got the Phillies. Can any of them, and I think one of them can, but how many teams you think are going to have 90 wins?
Well, obviously you're going to put the Braves up top. if the Phillies get any kind of back end pitching and they can field, Dave Sharapan says they're like a softball team. They're going to hit the crap out of the ball, but they can't field. He says they can't field. I don't know what to do with the Mets. You're going to call me crazy here. You can call me crazy all you want. I like the Marlins. Because their staff is loaded. They got young guns that can throw hard. Now we'll get to the back end and offense again. How many 3-2 and 43 games are you going to win? And yes, I know Craig Mish, they're a year away. I get that, but the heart and soul of the Mets is DeGrom, and Max ain't going to be able to carry that team. And if we think the Braves are going to be the Braves, I guess then you got Zach Wheeler and Nola versus Alcantara, Rogers. Who's the other guy you said?
What, for the Marlins? Well, you got Alcantara, you got Rogers, you got Luzardo, you got Lopez, and Lopez is going to be their number 2 guy. So he's so and then what we didn't even say. Don't forget, you got Sixto Sanchez coming back.
So that would be my sleeper. We ended the American League. Who's your sleeper? Who's your bust if you had to? So, I mean, I'm just going to say this because I think at this point you can. My bust would be the Mets and my sleeper would be the Marlins. That's where I would that's where I would go.
The Marlins are my favorite over on the board. I mean, the contest line 74.5, Jeff, they're going to win 80. Yeah, I think they're going to win 80, if not more than 80. So I like the Marlins to be over that number, and I think the Cincinnati Reds are another over for me. 74.5 is not very many wins. They got them at the same number of the Cubs. So are you kidding me? The Reds are better than the Cubs, and I know. The Cubs have Hendricks, right? And the Cubs have the guy they got from the Mets, little dinky dude that pitches. But it is what it is. The Cubs, they're not there. So I like the Reds to be over. I think both Milwaukee and St. Louis can get over their numbers. And I think that what's interesting is in the National League West, I only have one team going over their number. Everybody else under, and I think that's because everybody thinks everybody's too good. I only have the Padres beating the 87.5 number that they have. I don't think the Dodgers. To be honest, I don't think the Dodgers win 100 games. And then you got the Giants. I think at 84.5 is a pretty fair number, but I'm just going to say they would be 82 and 82 be 500, and then Arizona and Colorado, Jeff. These guys will be lucky to win 60 games.
And I like your analysis where I do think that the Padres, who had that flash and fade last year, every series with the Dodgers was like a playoff series. And then they finally, kind of reality set in and Tatis gets banged up again with the shoulder. And it was just one.
Remember, they got a new manager too.
Yeah. So for me, I do think the Dodgers find a way to win the division. Would I be shocked if the Padres were chasing the Dodgers? If the Dodgers were chasing the Padres all this year, I wouldn't have a problem with that either. I think they got stability. They got length in the front end. They got a good, strong closer. Let's see what the Bridgies do. And offensively, again, I think they have enough there where they can succeed, especially with the cellar dwellers of the Rockies and the Diamondbacks. And again, the Brewers, if they stay healthy, and meaning their pitching, if they stay healthy, they're going to be a tough out. I still like the the Cardinals there. And then in the East, again, I'll follow your lead with the Braves. I think the Phillies are sneaky. And again, I'm just my darlings of the East, and my surprise is the Marlins.
Yeah, I like those things. I would tell you there's a couple of things that things break right. So I have the Dodgers winning the pennant, and I have the Dodgers winning the World Series over the White Sox. And the reason is they're just so deep. Now, that being said, they're so deep that helps them get there. But they've got the big time experience. They've got the big time pitchers. Now, that being said, what if you get some of these teams like the Phillies, who have a couple of pretty good pitchers, and then have a lineup that can match up a little bit, and then the Dodgers don't have as big an edge. It's the same thing when they play the Braves. The Braves have have a pretty good edge on some of those spots, but it's just going to be one of those bullpen situations. I think the Dodgers can outlast them, but I would look at Milwaukee as a team that if you wanted to take a flyer on to go to win the National League pennant, I don't know what their number is, but if you were to take how much?
700.
If they would be the team I would take as a flyer team, because if they get offense, there is no three better pitchers in the National League. And if Yelich can be Yelich and they can get Renfroe to hit and they can find a resurgence year out of McCutchen and some of this other stuff that they got going on, that's a team that can compete with anybody, because their pitching is better than Atlanta's at the bullpen, at the front end, and just as good as, well, I shouldn't say just as good. It's really good in the back end. I mean, Atlanta and the Dodgers and Milwaukee have probably the best bullpens in all of baseball. So those three are really good. And if they can compete offensively, the pitching can be dominant. So I would take a flyer on them.
So you have one quick recap here: your division winners, your playoff winners, and who's coming out of the National League.
I like Atlanta, Milwaukee, and the Dodgers to win. I like San Diego and Philadelphia in wild card spots. I like the Mets to make it as a wild card, but if they have these issues with DeGrom and he's not going to pitch, and it's really more about Scherzer for me right now, because I still think they get there, but it's them or St. Louis. So it's one of the two. And then just for me, I like the Dodgers to win this year, because they've taken Freddie over there, the depth of that bullpen, how good it is. They're going to get there. They're more experienced. I think that the Braves were hot last year. Not that the Braves aren't going to get hot again, but I just think that these guys are more veteran. They can get it done. And then they're going to play, I think they play the White Sox in the World Series. I think the Dodgers beat the White Sox.
And Dave Roberts said, mark it down. We're winning it all this year. And again, I believe the way the game has changed in the back ends, and there's no more depth in that damn back end. And you know what? What's going to be the best for the Dodgers is, if I'm Roberts, I'm going to hand Kimbrel the ball. I said, you're our closer. Okay. And I'm going to say it very simply. As soon as you blow 3 saves, kid, you're gone. And because I got training, I got Gasterol, I got Hudson, I got enough arms here where you'll be pitching the 5th and 6th inning in mop-up duty. And I'd be point blank with him. That's it. I don't have time for the bullshit, period. We're here not to win a division. We're here to win a World Series. You complained over in Chicago because you weren't the closer. Where? Well, you're our closer. Put up or shut up.
Yeah, and he's got the pedigree where he should be able to do that.
I agree. So any questions, comments, concerns? Myself, Jeff Dawson at EC Sports Invest. Scotty Webb at Webby20MLB. Hit us up on the timeline. Hit us up on the DMs. Go over to YouTube, East Coast Sports Investors. Hit the subscribe button. Smash the like button. Tell both of your neighbors on the left side and the right side. We are going to do baseball like no one else does it. I can promise you that. Promise you that. If you've never invested or wagered in baseball, this is your year. This is your year. Stick close to us. We got you. Promises. All right. If you need to send us an email, send it at eastcoastsportsinvestors@gmail.com. From myself, Jeff Dawson at EC Sports Invest. From Scotty Webb at Webby20MLB. We wish everyone a blessed day, a better week starting next week. Baseball is here. It's here to stay. 6 months of action. Have some fun with it. Grab your popcorn, peanuts, and Cracker Jacks. Let's play too. And we'll see you tomorrow.
You're done.